All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to part two in covering chess during the school day. My name is Paul Sweeney. I'm a member of the Chess and Education Committee, and tonight we have some really great guests. I'm excited to introduce Matan Prilleltensky and Robert McKenzie for this March Chess and Education webinar with US Chess. This webinar also will be recorded and shared in US Chess's YouTube channel for later reference, so please share with others. Matan Prilleltensky is the current Associate Executive Director of the National Scholastic Chess Foundation. Matan is going to share instructional sequencing and curriculum teachers can use in their own programs. There will be a special focus given to how children develop their vision of the board and master the basic skills, with plenty of training material for students to work on. Matan's teaching was also featured in Paul Tuff's book, How Children Succeed, when he was working with the IS-3A team at Nationals. Robert McKenzie is a member of the US Chess Scholastic Council and a master classroom teacher. He's going to explain how he uses chess to help at-risk young people develop their decision-making skills. Robert has been recognized by the city of Lauderdale Lakes in Florida for his work in the school and summer programs. And there will be many opportunities for audience participation tonight and dialogue between the attendees. Both Robert and Matan work with the National Scholastic Chess Foundation, which is a nonprofit that was founded in 1990 by FIDE master and well-known chess coach in the United States, Sunil Weeramantry. The aim of this is to bring the benefits of chess to children of all ages. It currently provides high-quality chess instruction in New York, Connecticut, and Florida. And with that said, I'm going to open up, introduce Matan, and he's got a great presentation for us tonight. Thank you, Matan.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. Thank you so much to all of you for attending. Just so I explained to you how it's going to work, Rob and I will each present. Whenever you have a question, please let Paul know through the chat. The reality is that if you're sending something to me in the chat, I'm unfortunately so likely to miss it. So please let Paul know in the chat, and Paul will interrupt me in order to ask your question. And really, I would love to hear from you. I think when I go to professional development, I really appreciate any back and forth and opportunity to pick people's brains and take what I can get out of them. So any question you have, but by all means, please don't be shy. Okay, I will get started because we do have a lot to get through. Share my screen here. All right. Does everyone, can you just give me a thumbs up if you can see my screen well? Yes, okay, love it. All right, so our topic today is chess during the school day, some key skills for students and resources for their teachers. All right, so from my perspective, teaching chess, especially teaching chess to young beginners, starts with two questions. Number one, what do the kids need to learn in order to be successful and enjoy chess and progress? And number two, how are we going to teach them these things? So I made a list of what I see as the key skills for young beginners to learn. They need to learn to move the pieces correctly, obviously. Of course, I have my own opinion about what comes next after moving the pieces, but I'm very curious to hear from you guys. What do you think should come after moving the pieces? Let Paul know in the chat. And Paul, if you could let me know when you get pinged.
Sure, I'll do that.
Yeah, you can just take a moment to think, like you've taught the kids how to move all the pieces, they know how to move them. What's the very next thing you like to do? And there's no one right answer, right? It's not a my way or the highway situation.
So
okay, special rules from Christina.
Yes.
Piece value from Vaughn. I like these a lot. Checkmate patterns and special rules from Nathan. Love it. Okay, thank you guys so much. So the beauty of this is that there are different ways you can go right after you teach the kids how to move the pieces. One possible thing to come next is the special rule of check. Uh, One thing I have to mention, I know it's very popular to say CPR, capture, protect, run away. I feel duty bound to tell you why I've never liked that. When tournament chess players use the word protect, they are almost never referring to putting something in the way. They are referring to using something else to guard it so that if it gets taken, you will take it back. And that is, of course, not something you can do with your king, right? You can't protect your king to take back the piece that takes your king. So that's why I don't say CPR. I break getting out of check down into moving away from the check, capturing the checking piece, and blocking the check. Giving checkmate, of course, they have to learn that. Absolutely critical. They have to know how to finish the game. Taking pieces for free. I'm a huge believer in that as a building block of board vision. Defending against an attack on your piece. When I teach that, I like to break it down into moving your piece away, protecting your piece, capturing the attacker, or blocking the attack. You know, kids always suggest counterattack. Whenever I say, how can you defend against an attack? Even if the kid is so beginner that the chance of successfully using a counterattack in their game is like the chance of me splitting the atom, someone will in fact say counterattack. Of course, it's a good idea, and I do like hearing that from the kids. Experience shows that kids blunder so often when they use a counterattack at the start. So I would say that is something to be used with care. Making a good trade, they have to learn, right? Basic way of winning material. 2 attackers against 1 defender. I take you, you take me back, I take you again. And then finally stalemate. Now, before I move on, do you think I am leaving anything out?
Well, Matan, Nathan wrote in the chat that he suggested looking at your opponent's move before you begin thinking about what you want to do.
You know, I like that because I remember I had one kid where I said to him, you know, you're not allowed to physically start making your move before your opponent has completed theirs. Because in the beginning, it's so counterintuitive for some kids to even address what the other person is doing, or the fact that the other person's move is even relevant. So I like that a lot. Is there anything else I'm missing? Let's see, I'm getting something in the chat. Slowing down, patience from Ivana. Thank you. I'm going to tell you my maybe controversial opinion about that. At the very beginning, and this might just be my bias because I've taught so many 5-year-olds. At the very beginning, I like to let the games flow, and I like to see the kids moving quickly, because at the very beginning, if they're sitting there and thinking, I'm not even sure exactly what they're going to be thinking about. Sometimes they sit there and forget whose turn it is. Having said that, with kids who are older, for example, I think there's a lot to what Ivana is saying. Okay, moving on. There we go. Okay, moving the pieces. The way I like to teach moving the pieces is as a progression from simple to complex and from rules to exceptions. So the way I see it, the rook is the simplest piece, right? The rook moves in straight lines, as many squares as it wants, captures and moves the same way. Once you learn the rook, the bishop is like a diagonal version of the rook. So I think it's pretty easy for kids to understand. The queen is like a rook and a bishop, so that comes next. The king also moves in as many directions, in all the directions, but only 1 square. So I teach the king after the queen. By the way, when I teach the king, I don't teach check or check. I just teach the king. After that, the knight, which is notoriously tricky for kids, and then finally the pawn. The reason the knight and pawn come last, from my perspective, is they're the most complex pieces, and they involve exceptions, right? The knight is the only piece that jumps over enemy pieces. The pawn is the only piece that doesn't move and capture the same way. What's this weird thing that happens when the pawn gets to the other side? So I like to leave the most complex pieces for last. Any questions about this before I crack on? Oh, you know what? Okay. Frank said something interesting about controlling the center, developing, and castling as something to teach at the start. I personally like to leave this for later. I like to first really focus on building up the vision of the board in my students. And then once I see they're, taking for free, giving checkmate, then I like to talk to them about following the opening principles, usually in the context of their own games. Okay, I will move on. Okay, Nathan asked an interesting question. Do we delineate teaching to different ages and grades? Yeah, so what I would say is what I'm talking about here is a general progression for beginners. From my perspective, all beginners need to learn all of these things. But what is really going to change with different ages and grades is the pacing of your curriculum and the level of difficulty of the questions you ask within each topic would be my take. Okay. So after we teach to move the pieces, one thing I like doing is to give some exercises. So for example, in this position, kids are working on learning to move the bishop. I have to give a hat tip to Nathan Goldberg because I really liked his handouts about this and they inspired me to create some of my own. So here they have to figure out, which pawn is on a square the bishop can move to. And there should be, of course, only one right answer in each one in these puzzles. All right, so we don't start with the pawn game at NSCF. And the reason we don't start with the pawn game is what we just talked about this progression from simple to complex. The fact that we don't start with the pawn game means we have to answer the question, how do the kids play? How do you get them getting their hands on the chess pieces? So there are two things we do. One option is to teach checkmate ASAP. And Sunil has obviously been incredibly successful with this approach. So as soon as he teaches kids how to move the king, the queen, and the rook, he teaches them how to ladder check. So the fact that they don't know how to move the knight or the pawn at this point is irrelevant, right? There's no pawn or knight in the ladder checkmate. So he uses the king, queen, and rook together to have kids learn how to ladder mate and have them learn the concept of checkmate. And that way, as soon as the kids know how to move all the pieces, they can play a full game. So this is Sunil's approach, and he's been incredibly successful with it. My approach is different. I hold off a little bit, at least with young children, on learning how to give checkmate until I think the piece moves are really strongly automated in their minds. But I still want them to play even before they know how to give checkmate. So we play a lot of mini games in my classes. Some game where you have an objective that's different to checkmate. Maybe your knight has to get from one square to another. Maybe you have to capture all of the opponent's pieces. Maybe you have to move your rook and bishop clockwise around the board. And of course, I can't take any credit for this approach. This is really developed, among other places, in the STEPS method, which is, I think, a great resource for teaching classes of young children. Any questions about this before we move on? Okay, I'm not seeing anything or hearing anything from Paul, so I'm going to move on. All right, take for free. I am an enormous fan of deliberately, consciously, and carefully teaching kids about taking pieces for free. I think this is the building block of board vision. Not the double attack, not forks, not pins. I have to admit that makes me crazy when I see a book that's ostensibly for beginners, starting with the double attack, because most kids who learn chess are nowhere near the double attack. When you walk around class and look at the games that young beginners play, a fork is something the kids eat with, right? It's not an issue in their games. What happens in their games is you see pieces being, given away left and right, which, to be clear, is totally fine. That's developmentally appropriate for where they're at, but it just shows us what we need to teach them. So I like to do multiple lessons on taking pieces for free. I like to give the kids exercises to solve independently, and then sometimes in groups on taking pieces for free. I try to really make a point of pointing it out in their games. Like, oh, that was not a bad move, but you actually could have taken a piece for free. And then I take their move back and ask them to think about what they could have taken for free. Sometimes, depending on the game, I'll let them make my strong move. Sometimes, they have to live with the move that they made in the game.
Matan, with
These are
that, hold on, with
please.
that, I wanted to ask, is the value of the pieces also being taught alongside of this?
Okay, great question. So I teach the value of the pieces and taking pieces for free as separate lessons. I like to teach taking for free. I like to teach the value of the pieces as a preamble to teaching kids about making a good trade. So I like to show them, I like to discuss the capacities and mobility of each piece, the number of points each piece is worth, and then we talk about the concept of making a good trade, which for me comes later than take for free. Having said that, it is useful if at a very early stage, kids have a general sense of how much the pieces are worth relative to one another. Pardon me. Okay. So these are just some examples from take for free lessons that I've used myself and written for our instructors. What I tell instructors is that they can make the position as complex or simple as needed. So if we're working with young beginners, we might want to remove all of the pieces on the board, except for your piece, what you can take for free, and one other extraneous piece to make sure that we're actually taking the free piece as opposed to taking something protected or making an illegal move. Number two, you'd be surprised. Some kids want to play queen takes A8 because they've discovered to their credit that a rook is stronger than a bishop. But then that leads to us talking about the difference between taking a protected piece and taking an unprotected piece. And they understand that the bishop on e7 is in fact unprotected, and it's better to take that than it is to take the rook. Another thing I've noticed, if kids' grasp of the moves is still a little bit fragile, they may think that the bishop on e7 is protected by the pawn on d6. So that's a great opportunity to review how the pawn moves. Okay, giving mate. Obviously, this is the mother of all topics when you teach chess to young beginners. In my opinion, in order to give mate in their games with any degree of consistency, students have to first get control of the board. They have to notice, at least to some extent subconsciously, what all the squares their different pieces are controlling. Sometimes you'll see when they're trying to figure out if the king is mated, kids will physically move the king to all of the squares it can move to. Very often that's a sign that the spatial control of the board is still a little bit lacking. So I like to break mate in one down into a few different types of checkmate. I talk about helper checkmates. A piece, usually the queen, goes right up against the king and a helper piece protects it. Something I call the chaser and guard checkmate. This is steps terminology. One piece, the chaser, checks the king. Another piece guards the escape squares. Back rank checkmate, which speaks for itself. And then the procedure endgame mates, ladder mate, king and queen against king, etc. Any questions about this or anything I'm missing about types of checkmate? Remember, I'm also here to learn from you guys, so I appreciate hearing that I'm missing something. Okay, I have another question. Once you teach the kids to give mate, what do you like to do in your classes? Let Paul know in the chat. Any takers, Paul?
Not yet, not yet. I'm still waiting.
All good, all good. Well, yeah, take 15 seconds, let's say, and then we'll move on.
So Renee chimed in and said that to solve puzzles together as a class, like in a group.
Ooh, this warms my heart. I'm a huge fan of every type of puzzle solving. I love solving puzzles as a group. I love kids solving puzzles individually. Okay, I'm a huge fan of that. I'll tell you guys what the other thing that I really like to do. I like to take a breath, pause with introducing new material, and really give the kids time to play chess. I see, I have something in the chat, pardon me. Ooh, survival puzzle rush from Christina. You know what? This is something I could do more of. I could do more integrating things from chess.com and Lichess in my classroom. Okay, survival puzzle rush. I'm making a mental note of that. Thank you, Christina. So yeah, like I said, after kids learn how to give mate, the next couple lessons, ideally for me, maybe I'll have some kind of review of checkmate, maybe another checkmate lesson, maybe some time to solve checkmate puzzles, but I really, really want the kids to play. I want them to have time to play full games, and I want them to be able to finish those games in checkmate. I don't want to have to adjourn the games. Even if we have to play for 2 or 3 full classes afterwards, I think it is so valuable for kids to have the chance to conduct a game to its logical conclusion and give mate at the end. I think it's also a really useful chance for them to process all the material that's come earlier. So that's what I like to do after teaching to give mate.
And Nathan wrote that he likes to give the students some easy checkmate puzzles, not to do individually, but to do in pairs. So that way it's still a group effort. And after they're done doing this, it sounds like he has those players then play against each other, the ones that have been working together, solving the checkmate.
No, I like that a lot. You know, by the way, Nathan's a master puzzle composer. I will just mention off, which I know because he's a teacher for NSCF. But yeah, the comment about group work is interesting. I noticed ever since I started giving kids puzzle sets to solve, kids of all ages are naturally motivated to work together. You especially get this with middle school. Like when I started teaching middle school, I was worried, you know, am I going to be boring these kids? But it turns out, number one, kids love solving problems if they're, you know, at the right level, appropriate challenge. Number two, kids have this natural motivation at all ages, but especially at that age, to work together. So what I normally do is I have the kids take their best crack at it on their own, and then I open them up to working together with their peers. Also, sometimes I put the kids in visibly random groups and have them work together that way. All right, moving on.
Oh, one more thing, Matan.
Please.
2 things. Ivana, I'm not quite sure I understand. It sounds like playing Bug House. Is it motivating them to play more meaningfully?
Oh, that's interesting. So Bughouse is, of course, such a. Oops, I'm sorry. I think I had some delayed.
Apologies if I don't quite understand too, Ivana.
No. I was just apologizing for I had some delayed clicking come into play on my computer and it suddenly sped forward. Okay, there we go. Here we go. Yeah, Bughouse is, of course, a polarizing topic. I personally have always shied away from the chess variants until I'm quite confident in that kids have mastered the basics. Having said that, the social component of Bughouse and the way it contributes to the love of chess among kids is a pretty amazing thing. Yeah, so this is definitely food for thought. Definitely food for thought.
And Christina also said that, you know, there's obviously going to be a variety of skill levels in the classroom. So she'll have her strong kids play and assist some of the newer students. So again, it's sort of maybe some team building, some social. It sounds like
this is, you know, this type of peer tutoring is really interesting. Sometimes I notice that kids really consolidate their own understanding by helping their peers, which I like a lot. And also, like Christina says, there's definitely this really positive social component. I think it can be a big thing for breaking down barriers in a classroom. The one thing that like, let's say, on the other hand, if there was going to be another hand, is that I don't, you know, my bias, I think, because everyone at my school was forced to do the New York State Gifted and Talented certification many years ago, they drummed into our heads this idea that the strongest kids in your class, whatever you're teaching, are not meant to be peer tutors. Of course, that's not strictly the case at all, and I very much agree with what Christina said. I'm just at the same time always mindful of trying to challenge the strongest kids at their level as well. All right, so these are some snapshots of the mate in one, one of the mate in one lessons that I teach. So I generally start with the helper checkmate. So we have, you know, the classic checkmate on F2 being done by black in the first snapshot. Helper checkmate on H7 for white in number 2. For some reason, kids really start using this one after you teach it to them. There's something kind of easy and intuitive about organizing the queen and bishop to attack H7. And then kind of a variation on the theme of the back rank checkmate in the third snapshot. And by the way, this is what I mean when I say chaser and guard checkmate. So after queen to e1, the queen would be the chaser checking the king. The bishop on d6 would be the guard guarding h2. Okay, some mate in one puzzles. Who has the fastest trigger finger rather? Chat to Paul when you have the answers. White to move, black to move. Come on, guys, not all at once. Let's say 12 more seconds to think. Three, two, one. Aha! I love it. Thank you, Nathan Goldberg. Queen e7 mate in number 1, queen h7 mate in number 2, and queen h2 mate in number 3. Love it. Yeah. Nathan feels like he has to bail me out when no one else answers. And just for clarity, these are questions that I would pose to the kids in a worksheet. That they would get a puzzle set, they would think on their own, they would compare their answers with a peer, and then we would check as a group. All right, cracking on. Ooh, defending. Okay, I love this topic. This is one of the most neglected topics in all chess education, in my opinion. And when I say in chess education, I don't mean in your teaching. I should say in chess education literature. I was talking to Paul about this, and he said that when we ask kids to pay attention to what the opponent is doing, it's very abstract to them. Especially, imagine you have a class of 5-year-old kindergartners. What does it even mean to pay attention? It's not intuitive for them to look at what the other person is doing. So the skill of defending against a threat has to be carefully developed. So when I teach defending, I teach you can move away, you can protect your piece with another piece, you can capture the piece that's attacking you, or you can block the attack. And this is something I really try to emphasize when I'm walking around. That if I see someone in the process of blundering or getting ready to blunder, I like to ask the kids, which one of your pieces are they trying to take? And then I might prompt them, how can you move it away? How can you protect it with another piece, and so on. Or you can create another threat entirely, says Nathan. This is absolutely true. Absolutely true. I have noticed this is incredibly effective for strong tournament players. This idea of ignoring the opponent's threat and creating your own stronger threat. I've also noticed it is notoriously misapplied by young beginners. It seems like young beginners blunder so often when they try to ignore their opponent's threat that I probably err on the side at first of trying to get them to notice the opponent's threat and actively deal with it. And then later I introduce the possibility of making a counterattack. But of course, my way is not the only way. Thank you for that, Nathan. All right. So these are some positions from a lesson on defending. So the first two are examples of capturing. So you get out of the attack on your piece by capturing the piece that's attacking you. And then number 3 is quite tricky for kids because they often see that the knight on g5 is under attack. Sometimes they only look at ways to move it forward, and moving it forward is not safe. Sometimes they see that it can go to f3, but see that the bishop on h5 would capture it, which is then an opportunity to talk about the idea of moving away to a protected square. So number 3 is a mix of ways of defending, right? You're moving the knight away to a square where they can still take you, but one of your other pieces is protecting it. And Frank, I have to tell you, that's very nice of you to say. Frank said he would like to provide this to new coaches, so I really appreciate it. All right, quick trigger finger, defending positions, white to move in all 3. See if you can solve them. Or see how quickly you can solve them, I should say. Oh yeah, and let Paul know in the chat. And please don't be scared of missing something. I remember once during an online class, Grandmaster Sam Shanklin said, "Matan, you know better than that." I was shocked that he knew who I was. Rob, I hope you know, because if no one answers, I'm coming to you.
Okay, I was answering some of them because I got them kind of. I do a lot of these puzzles. The second
right,
one
so
here wasn't that hard,
the
but
second
other.
one is the harder one, exactly. Okay,
Oh, okay.
Okay. Oh yeah. No. Number 4 is white to move. Number 4 is white. You have 4, 5, 6, all white to move. So okay. So go ahead, Rob. Oh, sorry.
Um.
I'm sorry. I just had some errant click. There we go.
All right. I know my knight is under attack here, so I'm thinking got to do that. And then I'm thinking, okay, well, I like he's gonna swing his. Oh, he can't do that. I could just take 2. I guess I could
So wait
do.
one second.
I would take. I would probably just off the random. I would take on D5 with the knight.
Exactly. So number 1, rook takes C1. Right, your pawn on B2 is
Yeah.
under attack.
Yeah.
The bishop on C1. Number 2 is number 5, I should say, is the trickiest one. The knight on F4 is under attack, and the best way to deal with it is to capture the attacker. Knight takes B5, and then of course number 6 we play queen takes B4, capturing the attacker. I like to put a lot of emphasis on capturing the attacker because kids love taking things. It's a very useful skill. All right, moving on. I'm sorry. Sometimes it's getting my click in a delayed way, and then they all come through at once. Okay, there we go. All right, making a good trade. So earlier, someone was asking, I apologize, I forget who it was asking when I teach the value of the pieces. So this is when I really get specific about the value of the pieces. What I like to do is have students understand the relationship between a piece's mobility on an empty board and how many squares it can move to. So for example, rook, 14 squares, rook is worth 5 points. Bishop could go to 13 squares from the center of an empty board, but it's only worth 3 points. How come the rook gets to be worth more than the bishop? This is a nice critical thinking question that Sunil likes to ask kids. Why is a rook worth more than a bishop? They can go to such similar numbers of squares when you put them each in the middle of the board. And then, you can elicit thinking about light squares and dark squares. You can help kids understand that the rook can go to 14 squares no matter where you put it, whereas the bishop diminishes in mobility as it moves away from the center, and so on. There's some other critical thinking type questions that are nice with older kids as well. Why isn't the bishop worth more than a knight? Of course, on some level it is, right? Because I find myself always telling stronger kids, don't trade your bishop for your opponent's knight for no reason. But really, the bishop and the knight are both 3 points, which is interesting because the bishop can go to so many squares from the middle of an empty board, and the knight can only go to 8. Why is a queen more powerful than a rook and bishop combined? If a rook and a bishop combined can do the same thing, that's another question that's nice to get kids thinking. And then once they understand the values of the different pieces, then I move into different types of good trades. Then I give them some puzzles to solve, and then, as usual, we play chess. Any questions about making a good trade before we go? No. Okay, I will continue. This is just a snapshot from a making a good trade lesson. By the way, all these positions are from real games. The way I collect positions for our lessons, I filter the mega database in ChessBase for games where both players have FIDE ratings below 1400. I find that these types of games are more reflective of the things that happen in our students' games than, let's say, master games. And then I try to find examples of critical moments in each game, and then I sort them into different topics. So the first one, I ask students how black can make a good trade. They find bishop takes d1. I might ask a stronger class how they think this happened. Probably white didn't realize the knight on f3 was pinned and moved it. And then, okay, the next one, white makes a good trade because white takes the bishop. And after knight takes g4, white still won material, obviously. Okay, this diagram, I'm sorry if it doesn't really come through in PowerPoint, but this diagram is larger than the other ones. What I wanted to show you is that I have separate puzzle sets for kindergarten and first grade. I was working with a specialist in childhood education. Even though I do have a master's degree in 1st to 6th grade general and special ed, that was by now a long time ago. And I spoke to a specialist, and her advice to me was that 9 puzzles on a sheet, which is what I had before, is way too many for kindergarten and first grade. In hindsight, that's obvious, and I should have known that myself. They won't be able to solve all of them. They get overwhelmed. So for the K1 kids, I give puzzles with the same topic, but only 4 puzzles per page. And one thing that I'm about to start working on is also having puzzle sets that are much simpler with far fewer pieces. Okay, 2 attackers, 1 defender. This is pretty straightforward, so I'm just going to go through it very quickly. You take me, I take you back, you take me again, you won material. So that's what it is on the most basic level. Once kids get a little stronger, you can start showing them more positions where they have to figure out how they should take first. So on the most basic level, very often they just have to use the less valuable piece to take first, right? I'll take with my knight first, not with my queen, because I don't want my queen to be the piece that's taken back. But then once kids are stronger, they can be exposed to positions where if they take with the wrong piece, they get mated. And they have to start more actively taking the opponent's desires into consideration. But on this level, the main thing is just you attack something twice, you take them, they take you back, you take them again, you won material. Zone of proximal development. Okay. Of all the concepts from graduate school, this is the one I most remember because it's what I think is most important. All right. This is a concept developed by Lev Vygotsky, famous educator and academic. And my layman's definition of it is that you have what the kids can already do, you have what they will be able to do if you teach it to them, and you have what they will not be able to do in a real game, even if you teach it to them. So let's say what they can already do in one of your classes might be moving the pieces. They can already move the pieces. What they will not do in a real game, even if you teach it to them, in my opinion, at the absolute beginner level, is some type of intermediate tactic, fork pin discovery. Maybe they will do it, but not very consistently, and not in a kindergarten class most of the time. What they will be able to do if you teach it to them, in my opinion, is the basic skills. Take for free, defend, give mate, 2 attackers, 1 defender. So this is where I really try to live in my teaching. I really try to live in the zone of proximal development of the students. I try to figure out exactly what it is that they could do but aren't consistently doing in their games, and I try to teach that to them. And it doesn't matter if that's something I already taught twice. If that's what I see is in their ZPD, I will be absolutely teaching that a 3rd time rather than introducing new material. Because it's not about what I taught, it's about what they learn. Now, in terms of figuring out what the student's zone of proximal development is, I am a huge fan of number 1, looking at their games, number 2, looking at them solve puzzles. But really, their games are the most important thing. I try not to be swayed so much by the abilities that students show during whole group instruction, because whole group instruction has so much cueing embedded inside it. Like, I, as the teacher, want the kids to get the question right. There's so much cueing in my voice and what I choose to emphasize that sometimes kids can perform much better during a lesson than they can in an actual game. So I try to really look hard at their games and think, okay, why is so-and-so losing games? Or why are they not playing at the level that I think they can? Any questions about this, in my opinion, critically important idea? Okay, I like what Frank said. Yeah, Frank has a more elegant explanation of Vygotsky's ideas, which is that students build from what they know to what they don't know. Yeah, and this is, scaffolding, absolutely. Okay, I will crack on.
Matan, one question is a lot of times at least in my own experience, you can give students at some point in the school year some pretty difficult puzzles, and they could solve them pretty consistently, but you never see it in their own games.
Okay. This is a great point. Okay. One thing I like to say to kids is that and of course I'm not one to shy away from challenging kids and giving them tough puzzles to solve, but I like to say to kids, the way you get better at chess is not tackling the hardest thing you can possibly do and doing it. The way you get better at chess is figuring out what you're missing in your games and focusing on that. So of course, if kids want a challenge, if kids want some extra difficult puzzles designed for a stronger, older type of player, I'm all for it, and I will honor that and meet that desire. But at the same time, I really try to have the instruction and the independent solving and the group solving live at the level of what they're currently not doing in their games. Because as we know, applying something in a game is way, way, way harder than doing it in a puzzle. You know, in puzzles, I'm a grandmaster. You know, I can sit there for 2 hours, solve some complex study. Yeah, not going to happen in one of my games, unfortunately. Okay, I want to give you some controversial thoughts. I've seen this many times in my teaching. A kid already, quote unquote, knows how to play chess. And when kids say that, so you know, let's say they don't just mean knowing the rules. They mean they're, you know, like a strong player. Kids play e4, d4, knight c3, knight f3, bishop c4, bishop f4, kingside castle. They move the queen out of the way. They connect the rooks. They're doing everything perfectly. The kid looks like a grandmaster, especially, you know, compared to the opponent who's probably moving the rook pawn and running around the board with one piece. But then as soon as it comes time to take pieces for free or defend against the opponent's threats or give mate, the kid doesn't do it. And how is this possible that someone with so much obvious knowledge of chess is actually not able to execute what I see as the true basics? And here's my conclusion, and you may absolutely disagree with me. My conclusion is that chess is a game of skill rather than a game of knowledge. Don't get me wrong, knowledge helps a lot. I love knowledge, but above all, chess is a game of skill. And a kid who is putting everything in the middle, developing pieces, castling, but doesn't have the board vision to take pieces for free, from my perspective, has learned how to follow directions rather than how to really play chess. You know, anyone can put the pieces in the center and castle. You know, anyone who knows how the pieces move. But it's what's harder for kids is to actually build up their vision of the board to such an extent that they're taking free pieces, defending against threats, giving mate. So that's why I try to really focus on the board vision first. My attitude is always these abstract strategic concepts, there will be plenty of time for that later, once what I see as the true basics are mastered. Oh, here's one thing that makes me absolutely crazy. You know, some kid who just learned how to play has been exposed to some kind of strategic ideas with pawn structure. And I'll say, how come you didn't take that rook? And the answer is, then I will have doubled pawns. And to me, this is a classic sign of like the horse before the cart, or whatever the expression is, that taking the rook comes first. The disadvantages of double pawns will come much later once you are a tournament player. Does anybody want to push back on me or ask a question about this? Because I think this is sort of controversial in chess teaching. I'll do what I do in class after I ask a difficult question. I'll count to 10 slowly in my head. Ah, there we go. The chat appears. Well, okay, learn to walk before you run. It's someone who agrees with me. Love it. Maybe what I'm saying is not as controversial as I thought. I will just add a caveat. Having said all of this, I do in fact teach the kids opening principles myself. Because just like you guys, it does in fact make me crazy to see games that go h4, rook h3, rook a3, rook takes a7. So I absolutely do encourage the kids to move the center pawns, develop the knights and bishops and castle. Why did you leave that piece hanging? I meant to do that. I love it. I love it. Yeah. You know, it's a sacrifice, right, Nathan? Yeah, sacrifices for later. Yeah, sometimes I say to kids, right now, it's better to sacrifice your opponent's pieces. Okay. All right, solving puzzles. Anyone who's talked to me knows I'm a huge believer in solving puzzles as a skill builder. I try to really carefully model the solving process. Sometimes we even do one together with kids filling in the answer on their paper. If I don't do that, I find that I have a chorus of kids, saying, "What do we do?" At the end, we check answers as a group, usually before we play chess. I try to really emphasize when we solve puzzles, you are not expected to finish everything. This is not a test. You do not have to finish everything. You are just here to do the best you can on the problems you do, because that's what's going to help you become a better chess player. All right. Everyone likes, a different type of class when the kids play chess. My bias is in favor. Oh, sorry, I have something in the chat. Chevelle says, I found success giving simple instructions. What checks do you have? What checks do they have? What's unprotected for you? What's unprotected for them? I love it. In the steps, they call this the search strategy, where they give you, they give the kid the puzzles, and they like to break down exactly what they're supposed to be looking for. Like, look at your opponent's pieces. What can you take? Of the pieces you can take, what is unprotected? Circle the piece that is unprotected. Take the piece that is unprotected. Yeah, this stuff is very useful, especially for little kids. Okay, when my class plays chess, which I try to do every session, I like a quiet room. I really like a quiet room. I myself find it so hard to concentrate if I'm trying to play chess and there's some type of din. So I really try to create an environment that resembles a tournament and an environment that is appropriate for kids to do their absolute best thinking. I also like to pair the kids randomly. There's a book called Building Thinking Classrooms by Peter Liljedahl. He's actually a math teacher, but I think this is very widely applicable. Or rather, he's an academic who is studying the teaching of math. But one thing I took away from that book was the idea that if kids are not grouped randomly, they are wired to start thinking about why they are in the group they are in. I'm not as strong and so is very strong, so I'm supposed to learn something from working with them or playing against them, or we're about the same level, so da-da-da-da-da-da-da. So I like to make it visibly. 16 kids in the class, I might count off. I say to kids, remember your number. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, sit here. 2, sit here. 3, sit here, and so on. And there are other more fun ways to pair kids, obviously. With smaller classes, I like to have kids pick a chess piece out of something they can't see. So if you end up with a white pawn, you're going to play white against whoever ended up with the black pawn, and so on. All right. Okay, this I already talked about a little bit, this individual feedback when kids are playing chess. I try to give feedback with a light touch, so not to interfere too many times in a given game. And I try to keep it positive. This move is possible, but maybe you had something better. Is there anything you could have taken for free? Things like that. Oh, yeah. I just mentioned this in case any of you have the same experience. I personally get frustrated when I try to watch a lot of games at once, because I don't know where to jump in and what to participate in and who I should be teaching. So I try not to do that. I try to go around the room and really closely watch one game at a time and see if I see something of value that I can. Okay. Pacing. So I was planning on 50 minutes, but it's already 51. So I apologize for my mistakes in pacing. I am almost done for what it's worth. Yeah. I try not to be at the demo board for very long. I always think about the Peanuts comics, with Charlie Brown and Lucy, that the teacher is talking and all the kids hear is wah, wah, wah. I think past 15 minutes at the demo board, I think that's what my students start to hear. So I try to be at the demo board for really like 15 minutes tops. Then I give them some activity to practice whatever we learned. And then we have some time to play chess. And then, of course, as kids develop their chess skills, it makes sense for us to play chess for longer than we did in the beginning, because I want them to have the chance to finish the game. Okay, and the last thing I will tell you is that as chess teachers, we have an enormous advantage over every other type of teacher, that when the kids play, they show us exactly what we should be teaching them. So like every period of our lives as chess teachers, the kids are showing us what we need to teach. So this really is what guides my teaching. You know, if I taught take for free and kids aren't taking for free, I teach take for free again. If kids are, you know, crushing the opponent and not finishing the game, I teach one of the end game procedure mates. If I see kids giving away free pieces, we come back and work on different. I really think this is kind of the magic of chess teaching, and this is something that some tool that we have that can contribute to our success and the kids' success. The teachers of other subjects, I don't think have in quite the same way. This natural, authentic, ongoing form of assessment. I really hope there's something that you took away that is useful to you guys in some way. If you are interested in lesson plans and puzzle sets for kids to solve, absolutely get in touch with me. I'm going to turn it over to Rob McKenzie, who has a lot of expertise in an area that I don't, who has taught incredibly successfully in a wide range of topics: chess, math, STEM, engineering, for many, many years.
You're going too far. But thank you. But I'll tell you, Matan, a lot of the stuff you talked about, I always learn something every time that I listen to you. You know, as much as I've been teaching chess, Matan is our curriculum expert. I'm not the curriculum expert. I'm just a passionate guy. I just go out there and try to make things happen just off of sheer passion. And usually, from even what Matan was saying, I've been right on many things. So I'm glad. Sometimes I like listening to Matan. Sometimes he validates what I've been doing. Sometimes he lets me know. Maybe I start thinking, well, maybe I've been doing that wrong. Maybe I should change it. But I always learn something valuable. The reason why I'm here is not really to share that much curriculum expertise. Matan is that. I know there's a lot of new teachers coming in who might be skeptical of whether or not chess is for them. Can I teach it? Am I good enough? I'm kind of here to motivate you on that aspect, because I'm a very unlikely chess teacher to be in this chess thing. I almost feel like sometimes, how did I get in here at all? You know what I mean? Teaching chess, you know, because I still don't feel I'm very good. Matan is working, we work together. He's been working on my openings and helping me with my game, actually. So I'm still like now trying to get better till this day. I really love chess and really want to get better. But the reason I'm going to share with you some of how I got started in chess and what keeps me motivated and how I try to keep my kids motivated. And some of my philosophy on dealing with kids that are tough, because I deal with really tough kids that curse, kids that, you know, fight, and getting them to play chess is like a real challenge. Can you guys see my screen? Let me make sure I'm on my. Matan, which slide do you see?
I see benefits of learning chess.
Okay.
It looks like it's number 4. Rob.
Okay, let me start.
Now you're on number 1. Perfect. Now you're good.
It's not that many pictures, but okay, let me go from the beginning here. All right, can you see good now? All right. All right, as Matan said, I teach STEM at Lodge Lake Middle School. So my day job is not really chess, it's math and STEM. But when I first got started teaching, I was an elementary school teacher. But one of the reasons why I'm sharing this picture for you is because when I was in high school, I knew nothing about chess. I didn't even know I was trying to play basketball. That was all I did. So I come from a background where I knew nothing about chess. When I went to college, when I first started playing chess after I got hurt, my basketball career kind of went down. My brother went to a professional football league. This is his card. And at that time I had bought this computer. This is a computer I had. He told me, my brother, that he was playing chess with the football team, his professional football team. That's what kind of got me into it. And I started playing on this computer, teaching myself in 1994. I was an education major, and I was doing pretty well. And I was thinking, oh, okay, I'm trying to find innovative ways when I become a teacher to help the kids. And I thought about chess and all the benefits of chess. And I said, okay, when I come in, maybe I'll, use some of this with my class. Okay. I started in 1996. This is the first picture I could find of me teaching. But I never really got that much into teaching it. Even then, I taught a little bit, but I never wanted to take a team and go anywhere because I just didn't feel I was any good. I just didn't feel I was good enough. I'm playing with my brother, playing here and there. And this is one of the stories I'm going to tell to kind of help you teachers get some motivation. I did read this first book, Battling My Brother. And after I kind of read this book, I could beat my brother after reading this one book, Samurai Chess. So my chess, when I came into it, is very intertwined with sports, martial arts, and those type of things. That's how I really came into chess and came to love chess. I really fused it with martial arts. So my next little story fits right into it, because I really didn't think I was good enough, and I was looking for this guy that I heard taught chess at the library. It was this old man. He kind of looked like this guy right here on the left. And I was looking for him. I was like, man, this guy's gonna wait. When I find this guy, he's gonna teach me everything I know about chess, and he's gonna make me into this great chess player. And I looked for this guy, man, for like a month. And I finally found this guy, and he was this old guy, and he had all these little black kids around him teaching chess. And I said, man, this guy's gonna show me all the secrets of chess. So I finally sit down with him to play, and I'm so excited. And we play a game, and it was like 9 moves in, checkmate. We played a second game, about 13 moves in, checkmate. Another game, 14 moves, checkmate again. But I'm doing the checkmating. He's not. I'm checkmating him. And I'm like, man, this guy is terrible. But in my mind, I'm like, golly, he's really out here teaching chess. And the kids were excited. He had all these kids around him. And he says to me, hey, McKenzie, you're pretty good. And I said, really? And the reason why I shared this picture on the right, because this movie had came out at the time, and it's about a guy who keeps looking for the master. And then he realizes that he's the master. And that's how I kind of felt after that. I felt like, hey, you know what? I really should just go out here and just try. And just try to teach chess to kids. And that's what I did. I just said, I'm just going to go do it. Whatever resources I can get. I said, okay, I didn't have any, I just had one chessboard. I found United States Chess Federation's number, called them up. They sent me 5 free boards. And that's how I started my chess club after that day. And my philosophy, just what Matan is saying, if you see this picture, has always been, I started the kids from fighting, from watching my favorite movie, Rocky, one of my favorite movies, just knowing how to punch hard. I said, man, I really don't have any opening. I really don't have any kind of end game. But man, if I can hit a guy with this tactic, I can win. And that's pretty much how I play. If I can hit you with a tactic, I can take the game. So that's my kids, all my kids, know a lot of tactics. We do a lot of tactic puzzles, which is really easy to find those, and have the kids solve them. That's kind of like my philosophy. And the kids can win a lot of games right off the bat, just knowing a lot of tactics, just like the 6 basic moves, right? From like karate, the punching, kicking, headbutt, different things you put together. You have skewers, forks, double attacks, same thing, decoy deflection, all these little tactics. And you put them together, you can really make some great things happen. So that was my philosophy in chess, just having the kids do a lot of tactics. They'd come after school, we'd do it. Didn't really feel like I knew what I was doing. And then I said, okay, I finally had this one team, I think it was 1999. And I said, okay, I'm gonna take you guys to a tournament. And I told him, hey man, you guys are gonna lose every game, but it's just an experience, you know? And we had been coming to school playing until 5 o'clock. And one other thing right here, and I will tell even the new teacher, don't judge a book by its cover. Because if you look to the kid in the left, in the red shirt, he was a kid that got bullied a lot, always fought, all the time, always in fights, all the time. And I remember that year trying to find like the kid that had the best reading level that year to play chess with me. Like, oh man, if I find the kid on the 9th grade reading level in 4th grade, he's gonna be the best chess player. It turned out that kid was terrible. This kid could barely read, and he was my best player. So you just never know. And the first tournament I took these kids to, they actually won, and I could not believe it. And I said, man, I had like a tear in my eye. I'm like, God, I can't believe I thought these kids were terrible. They really can play, you know, and it really taught me, hey, you know, that sometimes you don't believe in yourself, you know, that you can do something, you know what I mean? But then your kids sometimes can make you believe in yourself. The kids make you believe in, I mean, but I want you guys to have fun. That's all I kept telling them. You're gonna lose, but have fun. And they end up winning. Then I went on to have some more success. This was an all-girl team I had. Same thing. I said, hey, you know, I said, hey, you guys just go to the girls' nationals, try to play your best. Didn't have much money. Somehow we scrounged the money to go. And these girls, and we're at a Title I school that's really struggling for money. And I don't even think we had like a good score that year on the test. But all these kids made perfect scores on the math. All of them, perfect scores, 3 of them. These 2 girls right here graduated at like 20 to this day. She moved away. So I really not sure what happened to her. But the chess, these girls played that, hey, I really saw that chess really can do a lot of things for these kids, making them stronger and more powerful. Because their friends, the other girls that were friends with them, some of them didn't graduate from college, some didn't even finish high school. So to know that, hey, these girls not only finished high school, but finished college like 3 years early. So it's really a testament to it. Here's just some other teams that I've had in middle school. I left elementary school, went to middle school, tried to take some of the same ideas that I had in elementary, take it to middle school and try to help those kids there. So I just, same philosophy, just come in, try to share the game with them, the love for the game, especially when you're dealing with tough kids. I use a lot of sports analogies, a lot of metaphors with martial arts. That kind of helps the kids stay interested in it. A little bit different from what Matan does. I really try to get the kids playing as quickly as I can, because like Matan said, if I'm there, I'm talking. These kids get bored so easily, man, like so easily. And if they get bored, you don't want them to get bored because something's gonna happen. You know, so I try to get them really playing quickly, having fun, and going around and really monitoring what they're doing. So here's just some shots of my class, like having kids playing right here. Sometimes I just have them play, and sometimes they can't finish. I teach them checkmate, and sometimes they don't finish. I'll just have to count up the points and say, okay, you won. I know that's terrible, so no one hate me, but sometimes just so they can get to playing and have fun, and eventually they really do learn all of the strategy, all of the checkmates, all of the techniques, the end games, everything. Somehow it just melds together eventually. I teach it, and sometimes they just bump into a lot of the things. And you guys can stop me any questions you have. It's just showing you an idea of some of the things and some of the kids and what they're doing. Just another shot of my classroom. I try to meld some technology, interesting videos, This is an old Maurice Ashley DVD I still use, called Maurice Ashley Teaches Chess. Just try to keep the kids engaged and interested. Try to do a lot of class tournaments, have the kids playing, give them medals, get the kids excited to keep playing. Take them on field. This right here, just taking kids on. Sometimes the police have little free tournaments. I don't know if there's any teachers on here might be skeptical of money. And I have money to go here, money to go there. There's a lot of free events you can take your kids to that don't cost anything, and you can make a big deal of it. And the kids really won't know the difference. You can try to, say, "Oh yeah, this is an amazing experience. That you're gonna go meet the police, play chess." So this is one of those kind of events, free events that I take my kids to keep them motivated and wanting to keep playing. And just another shot in the classroom here of us playing chess on a Friday. So every Friday I teach chess, and from those Fridays, the best players out of there, become the chess team. And here, this is last year, we went to a tournament and did really well. These kids played was 1 year playing with me. I think they placed second in the city championship. And they cried they didn't win. They look happy here, but they were sad. But just 1 year of playing, they were able to do some incredible things. And this is a local tournament that they won. So this is my last year's team. So basically, I just want to just tell teachers out there that might be thinking, hey, you know what? I'm not good enough. You are good enough if you believe you want to just help the kids and you just want to help them succeed and learn and grow. Chess in and of itself is like a seed that if they play and play and play, it'll grow in them and build. So you can just present it to them and just try to water it each day with some skills, some little activities you can have them doing, and chess will really take root in them if you really just going with passion and a desire to help the kids. So I'm just here to just really motivate you guys to keep going and believe in yourself. So any questions or that's pretty much what I have to say.
Chevelle has one question, Rob. It sounds like they're asking, what curriculum are you using in these programs?
With these programs, I use the techniques that Sunil shared with me. Early on, I was just kind of just going on what I knew from like my samurai chess book, from things I was reading. I put together a lot of the same like strategies that Sunil had. I was doing those things with the piece values. So a lot of it is logic, like teaching the rook first, then the bishop, the queen, the king, and the knight and pawn. Just the same thing that Matan was saying, with the same idea that I had heard. As a matter of fact, I had Sunil's book early before I even met him, and was using some of the things that were in there. We met many years later, ironically, through one of his directors, and we got together, and I've just been using his curriculum ever since. And anything other interesting things that I could supplement. I also have a good website I use. Sometimes called Chess Magnet School. I use that too. A lot of puzzles.
I believe Frank is asking, where do you teach? The city and the state?
Lauderdale Lakes Middle School in Florida. That's in South Florida.
Yeah, he really likes the inspiring stories. And it sounds like Chevelle was asking specifically the school day curriculum.
The school day, well, I'm the teacher only, the principals, this particular principal I had is very supportive, that hired me at first. And all the other principals kind of deferred to him, even though he left. And he knew that I had been doing good things with the elementary school because he had taught there before he became a principal. So he had taught at the elementary school that I was teaching chess at. So when he brought me over to the middle school, he was like, McKenzie, you could do chess on Friday, just teach, this curriculum, your math or your STEM, Monday through Thursday. And on Fridays, it's yours. You could do your chess. So that's what I would do. So and this principal, everybody's been letting me do it so far. I just got a new principal this year. She's been letting me do it. I don't know if next year she'll give me a hard time, but they know our kids, like it. They get excited. When they see the kids playing at lunch and all of the chaos that's going on at lunch, that's when I think, and I write my name on my boards when I give the kids the boards. I say, Mr. McKenzie's Chess Club. So the principals know that that's my board. And I give all these kids all these chessboards. So at lunch, when they're throwing food over people's heads and my kids are playing chess, it really sends a message that, hey, my kids are really doing something positive in the school and really trying to create this culture of intellectualism. When the culture is not really that, but they are rooting down in and playing chess in the midst of other people being ignorant, my chess kids will play chess in that cafeteria, regardless. So I think that helps me a lot to keep my program when the principals see that type of thing going on. So, any more questions? I mean, but yeah, it's just like even that program, I wrote a grant for like all these chessboards one year, and I got like 30 chessboards. It was like my chess ambassador program, and I had these chess quiver bags, and I would just give them out to kids that wanted to really play. And I said, hey, you can have this bag at the end of the year, but I got to see you playing in the cafeteria, or I got to see you playing, in the gym in the morning, when they're just holding the kids. So I said, but then I said, if you guys are playing, and I come and see you playing, you can keep the board. And that's how I really got to spread chess in the school.
All right, thank you, everyone.
All right.
Easy to see Matan and Robert's passion for the curriculum, for developing programs, to keeping kids interested. And they both bring such a dynamic to the game, to our students. And I want to thank both of them on behalf of the Chess and Education Committee. It was such an honor to have you both share your passions with all of us.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. I'm so sorry. Can I jump in for just one last second?
Of course.
I just want to say, hearing Rob's inspiring presentation and having Nathan here, who absolutely could have given the presentation that I did and taught you guys a lot of things that I was not able to teach you myself. People like Rob and Nathan and Sunil, of course, and the other teachers are absolutely what make NSCF what it is. That for many years I was teaching in Westchester County, just out of my Scarsdale studio, not working with NSCF at all. I guess theoretically competing with NSCF maybe, and I was constantly sending my kids to NSCF programs, to camps, to tournaments, encouraging them to take the chess program at their school, just because of people like Rob and Nathan. Everyone has a good experience. Everyone learns. It's just, I mean, that's just. I just hope that comes through. Yeah, that's all.
Thank you, Matan. And it's like I said in the introduction, it's been going since 1990 as well. So I think that's a testament to everybody's passion involved with NSCF and all they do over there. I just want to make everybody aware the next Chess and Education webinar is going to be on Sunday, May 19th at 8 o'clock, and it's going to be about philanthropy in chess. And it's going to feature Dwayne Barber, John Rockefeller, Jeff Isaac, and Mark Indemar. I hope all of you can make it. And lastly, this presentation again will be on YouTube. And it looks like Christine's said that someone was interested in Matan's slideshow and possibly Robert's, that we're going to present this material in the next week or so to everybody. We'll get all this information, and I'm sure Matan and Robert would, if you have any other questions that you just didn't think of during the webinar, they'd be happy to answer them if you just write them, and we'll have their emails as well for any sort of questions on that. All right, thank you everyone for another great webinar. And again, thank you to Matan and Robert. And I hope to see everybody May 19th at 8 o'clock for our next webinar with Chess and Education. Good night, everybody, and thank you for joining.
Thank you.
Thank you.